what do you think of sanctions? Do you think they've had any impact, or are they something we should do?
Sure, they had impact, absolutely. But I write in the book, I went with Ambassador Burns, Director Burns, in the beginning of November of 2021, when it became clear to the United States government that Putin was going to invade Ukraine. The president sent Bill Burns to meet with Russian leaders, including Putin, in Moscow. I happened to be home on leave then, and my vacation with my wife got canceled so I could go with Director Burns back to Moscow. But Bill, with Putin, with Patrushev, who was then the Secretary of the Security Council, told them in no uncertain terms, on behalf of the President of the United States, we see what you're going to do. The response from the West is going to be catastrophic for Russia. Don't do it. The Russian response, the consistent response from Putin through Patrushev, Bortnikov, the head of the FSB, Bill met with him, Narishkin, the head of the SVR, they knew why Bill was coming. So their message was rehearsed, but it was genuine. And I characterize it in the book as confidence bordering on arrogance. The basic message was, yeah, economic sanctions hurt. The Russian Federation today isn't the Soviet Union, the economic colossus that the Soviet Union was, 350 million people. And economic sanctions hurt. Yeah, you've got an enormous economy, good for you. But boy, our military's back. In fact, our military is as strong, maybe stronger in certain areas than the US military. We've invested a lot of money. Now, we're not going to invade Ukraine, don't get me wrong. This is, that's just not going to happen. But if there's trouble in our neighborhood, we can take care of it. So no need to trouble yourselves. And that's what Bill reported to the president. I don't think flying back in the plane with him and talking about this, I mean, we couldn't say, I don't think anyone who had seen that reaction thought, that he had definitely decided to do it, such that we could say definitively advising the President of the United States on such an important topic. 100% certain Putin's going to do it, but boy, the message that we brought back was, it's close. We believe he's going to do it. We don't think he's made the final decision, but we got to be prepared because we think it's coming. If you track what's going on now, the Russian economy is having some real issues.
Absolutely. I mean, the discount rate for their equivalent of the Fed is 18%. Inflation is running over 10% now.
Absolutely. Inflation is a scourge for them. It's a real problem.
It's hurting. Now, but will it hurt enough to make a change?
So a couple of things on that point. I met with, early on in my tenure, the governor of the Central Bank of Russia, who is an extremely talented, highly respected in international financial circles. Putin made an interesting statement not long after the war started to a Russian audience, a Russian state media interview. He was asked, Mr. President, why now? Why didn't we invade Ukraine sooner? And his immediate response was, we weren't ready. Now, people thought he meant militarily. I think it wasn't just militarily. He needed to reestablish, in some ways, the sources of technology and equipment that the Soviet Union, in a regime where the West had shunned Soviet communism, I think he had to do his best to prepare for the worst that the West could do with sanctions and export controls, important for the chips, weapons themselves, drones. So yeah, the Russian economy has definitely taken a hit, which is why what he's done is so tragic. The cost that it's imposed on the Russian people, but the bigger tragedy is what he's done to Ukraine and the Ukrainian. 15 million people killed, wounded, internally displaced, or forced to flee their country and are now refugees because of a decision by one man that he was going to reestablish this empire that is so important to him.
It was evil, there's no question of it. When I finished reading your book,